In this video, I am going to compare the iconography of A Fistful of Dollars with the iconography of the Hollywood Western. The purposes of this film iconography includes location, costumes, and props. Westerns are typically set in an American West frontier town, with saloons, railways, and two-story timber buildings. Visually, much is made of the vastness and majestic beauty of the dry surrounding desert, which often features large cactuses, tumbleweed, or spectacular large rock formations such as those found in Monument Valley. The town by comparison is usually small, consisting of a single main street of non-residential, slightly ramshackle timber buildings. The juxtaposition serves to emphasize the isolation and vulnerability of the town's population and the loneliness and otherness of the hero who often comes in from the desert. Elements of this scenario can be seen in A Fistful of Dollars, but there are differences that can point to a different view of the scenario being played out here. The desert, somewhere in Spain here, is not majestic, it is flat, rubble-strewn and unrelentingly brown. As Paul Smith says in Clint Eastwood's A Cultural Production, the landscape of Leone's films are more or less desert or deserted. These locations contrast with the landscapes punctured by glorious natural mountains. The first man-made structures we see are single stony whitewashed adobe houses, the inhabitants of which are Mexicans, not the white townspeople usually encountered in Hollywood Western towns. The film moves on from here to the town where the houses meld into a set that looks like it's been transported whole from Hollywood. The contrast and incongruity are notable, and it seems clear that the director is attempting to puncture the myth that the Wild West is a beautiful, majestic white place. It is an attempt to depict a more realistic setting perhaps, and a visual representation of the character of the main character. The Western has a very distinct look. Set between 1965, which was the end of the Civil War, and the early 1900s in the Wild West, the men wear Stetson hats, leather boots and spurs, and carry guns in a hip holster. Horses, and to a lesser extent stagecoaches, feature heavily, with characters seen on them for a good part of any Western. Cigars, alcohol, and saloon pianos are also typical props. The colours of the characters' clothing is important and provides a visual cue to who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. The bad guys wear mostly black unless they are Indians. The gunslinger's clothing is white, which is not only a representation of him being good, but also shows that he is untouchable. Despite the dirty landscape, he is clean, and despite the fact that he fights, there is not a scratch on him. In A Fistful of Dollars, however, the main character is wearing brown and is wearing a poncho. The change from white to brown is a clue to the changing character of the main character in this film. In the Hollywood Western, the main character is a mythic character. He saves the community from the bad guys, rights the wrongs, and expects nothing in return. The unnamed character in A Fistful is motivated to intervene in the strife of the town to make money for himself by pitting the warring parties against each other. He does save the woman and returns her to her family, but unlike the Hollywood Western, the community, i.e. the town, is not restored. The woman and her family have to leave to be safe. The main character is not completely good, nor is he untouchable. He is more realistic and he has ulterior motives. The bad guys are also in brown, grouping the main character in with the bad guys to show he is just like them. The costuming choice is also simply more authentic to the time period than the Hollywood version. However, he is also wearing a poncho, which separates him from the bad guys and makes him seem more aligned with everyday people, including the father in the first scene who is wearing a poncho over his white clothing. By contrast, the only people wearing white are the few characters who are helpless victims, who also live in white adobe houses. These are the first characters we see in the film, and the scene that unfolds with the child and then his father being abused firmly establishes our sympathies for these people and shapes how we view the rest of the story. Costume features such as sombreros and the ponchos show the change in location to the Mexican border, unlike typical westerns that are mostly set in Texas. In conclusion, the iconography of the location, costuming and props have a lot of little changes that show that A Fistful of Dollars is different from the Hollywood Western. These changes show a more realistic version of the Western.